The Secret Life of Introverts Inside Our Hidden Worlds by Jane Greenemint, read by Avicenna. Chapter 1. This is for all the quiet ones. When I was in the 6th grade, I was lucky enough to be scooped up by a great group of girls who could become my lifelong friends. We slept over at each other's houses and whispered secrets in the dark. We spied on the boy who lived in the neighborhood and his friends, and giggled over who we had crushed on. We filled notebook after notebook with our dreams for the future. We even promised to reunite every 4th of July as adults on the hill by our high school, so we would always have a place in each other's life. Anyone looking at us would have thought I was just one of the girls. We did almost everything together. People even said we looked like sisters, but deep down, I felt different. I was not one of them. I was other. While they read 17 magazine and chatted about celebrities, I sat silently on the edges, wondering if there was life on the other planet. When they were relieved that another school year was over and that summer vacation had begun, I was catapulted into a deep existential crisis about growing older, when they wanted to hang out all night and then the next day and then the next. I was desperately searching for an excuse to be alone. Mom, tell them I'm sick, or that I have to go to church. In so many little ways, I was the weird one. My friend group was the center of my teenage world. I loved them, so I did what anyone does when they feel like they are an alien dropped into this world from another planet. At times I pretended. I kept my secret thoughts myself. I didn't let on when I wish I could be alone in my bedroom instead of at the mall, surrounded by people. I tried to be the person I thought I should be, fun-loving and always ready to hang out. All that pretending got exhausting, but I did it because I thought that was what everyone else was doing, pretending. I figured they were just a lot better at hiding the true feelings than I was. There must be something wrong with me. As an adult, I still couldn't shake the feeling of being different. I worked as a journalist for a few years, then went back to school to become a teacher, thinking this would be more meaningful work. My graduate program was full of outgoing would-be teachers who always had something to say. They sat in a little group on breaks, bristling with an energetic chatter. Even after we would just spend hours doing collaborative learning or having a group discussion, I, on the other hand, bolted for the door on bricks as quickly as possible. My head was spinning from all the noise and activity, and my energy level was at zero. Also, talking in front of our class or answering the question on the spot was no problem for them. I, however, avoided the spotlight as much as possible. Whenever I had to present a lesson plan, I felt compelled to practice exactly what I was going to say until I got it perfect. Even then, I usually couldn't keep my hands from shaking. I had also gotten married. My husband, no ex-husband, was a confident life of the party guy who could talk to anyone. His large family was the same way. They loved spending time together in loud giggle of kids, siblings, and friends of the family. And often they would drop by our small apartment, letting me know they were coming only when they were already on their way. They would pass hours crammed into the living room, telling stories, cracking jokes, and volleying sarcastic remarks back and forth with the professional finesse of Venus and Serena Williams. I, once again, sat quietly on the edges, never knowing how to wedge myself into this fast-moving conversation or what to say. As the night wore on, I often found myself slipping into an exhausting brain fog, which made it even harder to participate. Most nights, what I really wanted was to read a book alone, play a video game, or just be with my husband. When comparing myself to my extroverted in-laws and classmates, I never seemed to measure up. My disparaging thoughts returned. Why couldn't I just loosen up and go with the flow? Why did I never have much to say when I was in a big group, but I had plenty to talk about during a one-on-one? Why was my idea of a good time so different from the what other I was broken, I had to be. Things didn't look like they would ever get better. At one point, I had a complete breakdown. I found myself awake in the middle of the night, frantically crying, typing everything that was wrong with me and my life into a Word document. I just couldn't take it anymore. I was too different, too messed up. The word was too much, too loud, too harsh. I think finally expressing all the secret feeling that I had built up inside me in a raw, unfiltered way saved me. When I reread what I had written, I realized I couldn't keep living this way. Somehow I made it through that terrible night. Soon after, I discovered something about my life that changed my life. One magic word, introvert. One afternoon in the physiology or self-help section of used bookstore, I came across a book called The Introvert Advantage by Marty Olsen-Lani. I bought it and read it cover to cover. When I finished, I cried. I had never felt so understood in my life. That beautiful book told me there was a word for what I was, introvert. It was a magic word because it explained many of the things I had struggled with my entire life, things that had made me feel bad about myself. Best of all, the word meant I was not alone. There were other people out there like me, other introverts. Say what you like, you will about labeling. That little label changed my life. I went on to read everything about introversion I could get my hands on, and I read Quiet by Susan Chin, Introvert Power by Laurie Holgo, The Introvert's Way by Sophia Dembling, and others. I became interested in personality type and high sensitivity too. Turns out I'm not just introvert but also a highly sensitive person. After reading dozens of books about introversion, I turned to the internet. I joined Facebook group for introverts and poured over blog. My friends got sick of me constantly talking about introversion. Did you know it's an introvert thing to need time to think before responding? I would say. Or I cannot go out tonight, it's introvert time. I couldn't shut up about being an introvert. It was like I had been reading the wrong script my entire life, trying to play the role of the person I thought I should be, not the person I truly was. Don't get me wrong, learning about my introversion didn't fix all my problems. It would take several years of hurt inner work along with consciously deciding to make real changes in my life before things got better. But for me, embracing my introversion and stopping myself from trying to pretend to be an extrovert was the first step. As I learned more about introversion, I became more confident in who I was. I started accepting my need for alone time. I saw my quiet, reflective nature as a strength, not a liability, and I also started working on my social skills, seeing them as simply that skills I could improve and use to my advantage. But most important, for the first time in my life, I started to actually like myself. I was no longer an other, I was something else, an introvert. Now I am on emotions. Today I am the voice behind Introvert Dear, the popular online community for introverts. I never set out to be an advocate for introverts, but when something changes your life, you want to tell other people about it. I started Introvert Dear as my personal blog in 2013. At the time, I was working as a teacher, living with roommates, and truly dating for the first time in my adult life. I decided I would chronicle my life as an introvert, living in a society that seems geared toward extroverts. I kept my blog anonymous so I could write whatever I wanted without fearing what other people would think. So very introverted of me. For my bio, I used a picture of just my shoulder that I show off a tattoo of 5 birds I had just got, and my face was mostly hidden. Staring at my computer screen, alone in my bedroom one night, I named my little blog Introvert Dear. I imagined a wise, older introverted women counseling a younger introverted women. The young woman was lying on the chaise lounge and the other woman was sitting in a chair nearby. The kind of setup you see in movies when someone goes to a therapist. The older one began her advice to the younger one by saying, "Now, introvert dear, The first blog post I wrote got more comment about my tattoo than anything actually related to what I would write in, but I kept writing, mostly just for myself, and people kept reading. I didn't know it then, but introvert dear was another step in my journey toward healing. Once again, expressing myself honestly relieved some of the pain I was feeling. And connecting with other introverts made me feel less self-conscious about my weird ways. Today, Introvert Dear is less of a blog and more of an online publishing platform. It features not just my voice, but hundreds of introverts' voices, and it brings together introverts from all over the world. Are you an introvert? What about you? Have you always felt different? Were you the quiet one in school? Did people ask you why don't you talk more? Did they still ask you that today? If so, you might be an introvert like me. Introverts make up 30 to 50% of the population, and we help shape the world we live in. We might be your parent, friend, spouse, significant other, child, or a co-worker. We lead, create, educate, innovate, do business. Solve problem, charm, heal, and love. Introversion is a temperament which is different from your personality. Temperament refers to your inborn traits that organize how you approach the world, while personality can be defined as the pattern of behavior, thoughts, and emotion that take you as an individual. It can take years to build a personality, but your temperament is something you are born with. But the most important thing you know about being an introvert is that there is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken because you are quiet. It's okay to stay home on a Friday night instead of going up to party. Being an introvert is a perfectly normal thing to be. Are you an introvert? Here are 22 signs that you might fear toward introversion on the spectrum. How many do you relate to? These signs may not apply to every introvert, but I believe they are generally true. 1. You enjoy spending time alone. You have no problem staying home on a Saturday night. In fact, you look forward to it. To you, Netflix and chill really means watching Netflix and relaxing, or maybe your thing is reading, playing video games, drawing, cooking, writing, knitting tiny hats for cats, or just longing around a house. Whatever you prefer solo activity is, you do it as much as your schedule allows. You feel good when you are alone. In your alone time, you are free. Number 2, you do your best thinking when you are alone. Your alone time is not just about indulging in your favorite hobbies, it's about giving your mind time to decompress. When you are with other people, it may feel like your brain is too overloaded to really work the way it should. In solitude, you are free to tune into your own inner monologue. Rather than paying attention to what's going on around you, you might be more creative and or have deeper insights when you are alone. Number 3, your inner monologue never stops. You have a distinct inner voice that's always running in the back of your mind. If people could hear the thoughts that run through your head, they may in turn be surprised, amazed, and perhaps horrified. Whatever their reaction might be, your inner narrator is something that's hard to shut off. Sometimes you cannot sleep at night because your mind is still going. Thoughts from your past haunt you. I cannot believe I said that stupid thing 5 years ago. Number 4, you often feel lonelier in the crowd than when you are alone. There is something about being with a group that makes you feel disconnected from yourself. Maybe it's because it's hard to hear your inner voice when there is so much noise around you. Or maybe you feel like another, like I did. Whatever the reason, as an introvert, you crave intimate moments and deep connections, and those usually are not found in a crowd. Number 5, you feel like you are faking it when you have to network. Walking up to strangers and introducing yourself, you would rather stick tiny needles under your fingernails. But you know there is a value in it, so you might do it anyway, except you feel like a pony the entire time. If you are anything like me, you had to teach yourself how to do it. You might have to read self-help books about how to be a better conversationalist or exude more charisma in the moment you have to activate your public persona. You might say things to yourself like, smile, make eye contact, and use your loud, confident voice. Then when you are finished, you feel beat, and you need downtime to recover. You wonder, does everyone else have to try this hard when meeting new people? Number 6. You are not the student shooting your hand up every time the teacher asks a question. You don't need all that attention. You are content just knowing that you know the answer. You don't have to prove it to anyone else. And at work, this may translate to not saying much during meeting. You would rather pull your boss aside afterward and have a one-on-one conversation or email your ideas, rather than explain them to a room full of people. The exception to this is when you feel truly passionate about something. On rare occasions, even shy introverts have been known to transform themselves into a force to be reckoned with when it really counts. It's all about how much something matters to you. You will risk overstimulation or when you think speaking up will truly make a difference. Number 7, you are better at writing your thoughts than speaking them. You prefer texting to calling and emailing to face-to-face meeting. Writing gives you time to reflect on what you say and how to say it. It allows you to edit your thoughts and craft your messages just so. Plus, there is less pressure when you are typing your words into your phone alone than when you are saying them to someone in real time. But it is not just about texting and emailing. Many introverts enjoy journaling for self-expression and self-discovery. Others make a career out of writing, such as John Green, author of the best-selling young adult novel, The Fault in Our Stars. In his YouTube video, Thoughts from Places, The Tour, Green says, writing is something you do alone. It's a profession for introverts who want to tell you a story but don't want to make eye contact while doing it. Number 8. Likewise, talking on the phone does not sound like a fun way to pass the time. One of my extroverted friends is always calling me when she is alone in her car. She figures that although her eyes, hands, and feet are currently occupied, her mouth is not. Plus, there are no people around. How boring! So she reaches for her phone. However, this is not the case for me. When I have a few spare minutes of silence and solitude, I have no desire to fill that time with idle chit-chat. Number 9. You would rather not engage with people who are angry. Psychologist Marta Bonari and collaborators found that people high in introversion do not show what's called the guest queuing effect. Normally, if you were to view the image of a person's face on a computer screen looking in a certain direction, you will follow that person's gaze. Therefore, you would respond more quickly to a visual target on that side of the screen than when the person gaze and target point in the opposite direction. Introverts and extroverts both do this, with one exception. If the person seems mad, introverts don't show the gaze queuing effect. This suggests that people who are very introverted do not want to look at someone who seems angry. Bonari and her team think that this is because they are more sensitive to potential negative evaluation, meaning if you think a person is mad because something related to you, even their gaze becomes a treat. Number 10. You avoid small talk whenever possible. When a coworker is walking down the hall toward you, you have ever turned into another room in order to avoid having a "Hey, what's up?" conversation with them? Or have you ever waited a few minutes in your apartment when you heard your neighbors in the hallway so you didn't have to chat? If so, you might be an introvert, because introverts tend to avoid small talk. We would rather talk about something meaningful and then fill the air with a chatter just to hear ourselves make a noise. Number 11. You have been told you are too intense. This stems from your dislike of small talk. If it were up to you, mindless chit-chat would be banished. You would much rather sit down with someone and discuss the meaning of life, or at the very least, exchange some real, honest thoughts. Have you ever had a deep conversation and walk away feeling energized, not drained? That's what I'm talking about. Meaningful interaction are the introvert antidote to social burnout. Number 12. You don't go to parties to meet new people. Birthday parties, wedding receptions, staff holiday parties, or whatever the party every once in a while. But when you go to an event, you probably don't go with the goal of making new friends. You would rather hang out with the people you already know. That's because, like a pair of well-worn sneakers, your current friends feel good on you. They know your quirks and you feel comfortable around them. Plus, making new friends would mean making small talk. 13. You shut down after too much socializing. A study from Finnish researchers Santi Leikas and Ville Juhani Ilmarinen showed that socializing eventually becomes tiring to both introverts and extroverts. That's likely because socializing spends energy. Not only do you have to talk, but you have also to listen and process what's being said. Plus, you are taking in all kind of sensory information, such as someone has tone, a voice, and body language, along with filtering out any background noises or visual distraction. It's no wonder people get drained, but there are some very real differences between introvert and extrovert. On average, introverts really do prefer solitude and quiet more than their extroverted counterparts. In fact, if you are an introvert, you might experience something that's been dubbed the introvert hangover, like a hangover induced by one too many giant fishbowl margaritas. You feel sluggish and icky after too much socializing. Your brain seems to stop working, and in your exhaustions, you choose to be able to hold a conversation or say words that make sense. You just want to lie down in a quiet, dark room and not move or talk for a while. That's because introverts can become overstimulated by socializing and shut down. 14. You notice details that others miss. It's true that introverts can get overwhelmed by too much stimuli, but there is an upside to our sensitivity. We notice details that others might miss. For example, you might notice a subtle change in your friend's demeanor, signaling that she is upset, or you might be highly tuned into color, space, and texture, making you an incredible visual artist. 15. You can concentrate for a long period of time on things that matter to you. I can write for hours. I get in a zone and I just keep going. I don't need anyone or anything else to entertain me. As I write, I enter in a state of flow. I block out distraction and hone in on what I need to accomplish. If you are an introvert, you'll likely have activities and or pet projection that you could work on for practically forever. That's because introverts are great at focusing alone for a long period of time. 16. You live in your head. In fact, you may daydream so much that people have told you to get out of your head or come down to earth. That's because your inner world is rich and vivid. Not all introverts have strong imaginations, but many of us do. 17. You like to people watch. Actually, you just like to observe in general whatever. Whether it's people, nature, and etc., it's introvert or natural observers. They can often be found hanging out along the edges of a party or even just watching rather than in the thick of things. 18. You have been told you are a good listener. You don't mind giving the stage to someone else for a bit and listening. You are not clamoring to get every thought out there because you don't need to talk to him or vocalize everything that crosses your mind. The way some extroverts do. Listening, truly listening, means you get to learn something new or better understand what makes someone tick. 19. You have a small circle of friends. You are close with just 1, 2, or 3 people and you consider everyone else to be an acquaintances. That's because introverts have only so much people energy to spend, so we choose our relationships carefully. It's about budgeting. 20. You don't get high off your environment. There is a reason why crowds, parties, and networking events are not your thing. Introverts and extroverts differ in how their brain processes experiences through reward centers. Neurobiologist Yufu and Richard Debu demonstrated this phenomenon by giving Ritalin to introverted and extroverted college students. They found that extroverts were more likely to connect their feeling of bliss with the environment they were in. However, introverts did not associate the feeling of reward with their surrounding. This suggests that introverts have a basic difference in how strongly they process reward from their environment. According to researchers, the brain of introverts may weight internal cues more strongly than external ones. In other words, introverts don't feel high from their surrounding. Instead, we are paying more attention to what's going on inwardly. 21. You are an old soul. Yeah, introverts tend to observe, process information deeply, and reflect before they speak. Analytical by nature, we are often interested in discovering the deeper meaning of underlying pattern behind events. Because of this, introverts can seem wise even from a young age. The last number, 22, you alternate between being with people and being alone. Introverts release being alone. In our solitude, we have the freedom to tune into our inner voice and tune out the noise of the world. As we do this, we gain energy and clarity. But introverts do not always want to be alone. As human beings, we are wired to connect with others, and as introverts, we long to connect meaningfully. So introverts live into the world. We visit the world of people, but solitude and the inner world will always be our home. Still not sure? Still not sure if you are an introvert? Here is a quick test. Answer these two questions honestly. Number 1. If you had to choose between two options for a dream vacation, which one would you pick? A relaxing vacation by yourself, or with just one other person, a good book, and just a casual cabin. Or B, a group vacation with your friends or family, doing exciting things like gambling in Las Vegas, or partying on a cruise ship. Don't think about what you should do or what's expected of you. Which one would you pick if you didn't care what anyone else thought about you? As you probably guessed, if you choose the scheduled cabin, you are more of an extrovert. If you pick the second option, you are probably more extroverted. Number 2, imagine your dream day. What activity would you do? Who would you want to hang out with? If your preferred day consists of doing something low-key with just one or two people or alone, you are probably an introvert. If you imagine yourself surrounded by lots of people doing something active, you are probably more of an extrovert. Keep in mind that introversion and extroversion are not all or nothing traits. Imagine a spectrum with introversion on one end and extroversion on the other. Everyone lands somewhere on that spectrum, with some falling closer to the introverted end and others nearer the extroverted end. Nobody is a pure introvert or extrovert. Such a person would be in the lunatic asylum, wrote Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychologist who first coined the term introvert. In other words, we all act extroverted in some situation and introverted in others. For example, when I am with my close friends, I talk, laugh, argue, and sometimes even dance. It's because I feel comfortable with them, but I'm still an introvert who needs plenty of alone time. When writing this book, I talked with hundreds of introverts. Through to introversion, many of those conversations happen in writing via email and social media. In a few instances, I was lucky enough to be able to sit down with someone and interview the person face to face. Throughout this book, I share comments from the introvert I interview, as well as research studies and my own experience and stories that have been published on introvertdear.com. As an introvert, you may find yourself identifying with some part of this book but not with others. Let me be clear, that's perfectly okay. Just because you don't relate to everything does not mean you are not an introvert. There is no wrong way to do introversions. Tips for extroverts. Do I spy an extrovert? Don't think I didn't see you hanging out in my introvert book. But don't worry, you are welcome here too. In fact, I have included tips in most chapters just for you to help you understand introverts better. Look for tips in a box like this one, whether you are an extrovert in a relationship with an introvert and the coworker of an introvert, the family member of an introvert, or the friend of introvert. There is something in this book for you too. Chapter 3. Introverts are rude and other misconceptions. I recently attended a blogging workshop, seated at the table with the 3 other writers. We introduced ourselves by saying what we wrote about. There was a food writer, a political junkie, and a parenting blogger. Then it was my turn. I am Jen, and I read about introverts, I said, reminding myself to use my loud, confident voice while smiling, briefly looking each person in the eye. Don't laugh, I bet you say things like this in your head too. Talking to strangers is hard. The food blogger parked up. She had been chatting at the table from the moment I sat down. She would later tell me that she identifies as an extrovert. Oh, that's great, she called. So you teach introverts how not to be introverted? I stared at her. A dozen thoughts exploded in my head at once. I wanted to tell her that introverts don't need to be fixed, that there is nothing wrong with being an introvert. I could feel myself tensing up as I opened my mouth to speak, but I didn't say any of that. I didn't have to. Suddenly, the political junkie chimed in. I'm an introvert and I don't want to change that, she proudly declared. I think you are misunderstanding what it means to be introverted. I swear I almost shouted, I mean. Unfortunately, this sort of thing happen all the time. Like the extroverted blogger, people have the wrong idea about introversion. Even some introverts don't understand it. Once, someone told me they like spending time alone, were not into a big social event, and listened more than they spoke. But there was no way they could be an introvert because they didn't get nervous when talking to people. And similarly, I see a lot of misconception about introversion online. Google's definition of introvert is a shy, reticent person. Even in my own Facebook group for introvert, people confuse introversion with depression, anxiety, and mental illness. Likewise, while writing this book, I came face to face with misconception about introversion. When I told others that my book was about introvert, they would often get a funny look on their face. Are you an introvert? They would usually ask next. It seemed as tough. They were surprised to find out that a self-professed introvert could even hold a conversation. Oh, you must feel way out of your comfort zone talking to me then. One very extroverted woman I had just met exclaimed, I didn't, but you are not an introvert, another said. I have seen you talk to people. And there is another reason to debunk misconception about introverts. Research by Aaron W. Sigmund and Theodore M. Dombrowski suggests that acting falsely extroverted can lead to burnout, stress, and cardiovascular disease. More research into this area is still needed, but this effect is likely caused by the overstimulation and anxiety that can result from introverts extending themselves socially. Turns out, embracing your introverted nature is not just a feel-good axiom, it's actually good for your physical health, but we cannot embrace our quiet nature until we understand what this truly is, and that starts with clearing up misconception about it. Misconception 1. Introversion is simply rudeness. It was my first year of college, and the semaphore in the dorm room across the hall from me had invited me to dinner. She was outgoing, loud, and blunt, the kind of person who would say anything to anyone. In hindsight, she was probably an extrovert. At the restaurant, we ordered appetizer, and she asked me where I was from and what my major was, like writing. All the years I got to know you, small talk, I thought our first friend date was going well as it could for a socially awkward introvert like me. But then she said something that shocked me. You are actually a really cool person. When I first met you, you hardly said anything. So I thought you were kind of a bitch. Kind of a bitch? She thought of the words as coolly as if she had just informed me that my mozzarella stick had arrived. In some twisted way, I think she meant it as a compliment. I didn't know what to say. I froze. Then uttered a weak, haha, thanks. I tried to pretend like everything was okay, but in reality her words wounded me. Sure, I was quiet. I kept to myself on campus. I even spent Friday night lying in a bed reading books from my classes that I found interesting. I had a boyfriend and I have a few friends, close friends, and they were all I needed to fill my social quota. I would never thought my introverted ways were seen as a bitchy. I was just doing my own thing. Turns out being called bitchy, rude, or aloof is a common introvert problem. I have been accused of being an arrogant prick for avoiding small talk and favoring solitude. Yeah, I have been called an ice queen. Also, many people have told me, so you scared me when I first met you because I didn't smile all the time. After high school, when I would happen to meet someone I hadn't seen since high school, it inevitably would be said that they thought I was stuck up or bitchy. She would ask them if she had ever said something rude to them, and it would turn out that no, I didn't, but because I often sat alone and read or had headphones on, people assumed that I thought I was superior to them. That baffled me. I certainly didn't want to be in the with the crowd, but I also didn't actively dislike most people. Mostly I was just busy with my book and music and such. To this day, I cannot think of the time when I had been outright rude to my doormate. I would never insulted her or walk away when she was talking or anything of the sort. What had probably happened was I would get past her several times in the hallway before we were friends and had not said much. I definitely didn't stick my hand out and exclaim, "Hi, I'm Jen. How's your day going?" I didn't say this as a being rude. I was simply keeping to myself. Yeah. As we go through the day, we are likely in our heads. Salima, another introvert who has been accused of being rude, tells me, when your mind is screaming at you with thoughts and ideas coming at you all at once, it's hard to be loud. Are we simply observing our surroundings as introverts tend to do? Ami says, quiet does not equal mad, sad, rude, bitchy, arrogant, or stuck up. Quiet does equal people watching, observing, and enjoying life quietly. When my extroverted doormate called me a bitch, I would spoken up. I wish I would have told her not to make assumptions about someone who is quiet. A person can be quiet for many reasons. They might be an introvert who needs time to warm up to new people. They might be turned inward at the moment, enjoying the thought in their private inner world, or that quiet person may simply be content with silence. Don't be too quick to judge. Yeah, today I make a point of saying hello when I pass neighbors in the hallway of my apartment building. When I am in the right mood, I even engage in some back and forth. Hey, like I like your coat. Where would you get it? But I probably won't hang around having a 15-minute conversation that started with, "How about this weather?" Unless it's snowing, if, of course, which in that case is the only thing we Minnesotans want to talk about, and I probably won't spontaneously invite anyone in for tea. I'm okay with that. Misconception 2. The introvert's need for solitude is antisocial. When Jill was in high school, she felt exhausted and drained all the time because she didn't know how to work with her introversion like she does now. As a result, she got in a lot of trouble with her parents. They never seemed to understand why I wanted to be on my own all the time, and I'm pretty sure they worried I was depressed or into something I shouldn't have been into since I liked to sit at the computer all night. And she tells me, thus, I was antisocial and had a problem. I got to the point where Jill couldn't even handle the social simulation. From being in class, I completely shut down and tuned out during the day at school, she says. My teacher sat me down with my parent and basically told me to participate or else. I felt like I was a defective or a bad kid. I was just waiting for them to send me off to therapy or something so I could be fixed for not wanting to participate. No, Joe knows he felt drained because he was overstimulated from being around people and not being able to fully recharge afterward. There was always so much pressure to participate in clubs, and then friends wanted a lot of my attention too. Once we got out of class, if I didn't give it to them, that caused a whole other slew of problems because if I was not 100% devoted to them, I was a bad friend. I basically had to fake being an extrovert to get through it. And as a result, I was crabby and a stuck up bitch. This was a direct quote from an old classmate. Yeah. What they don't understand is there is a tiny visible battery inside introverts. This metaphorical battery contains all our juice for social interaction. When a chatted coworker goes on and on about her weekend and you are forced to listen, your battery drains a little. When you do a group lunch with everyone in your office and polite chit-chat is mandatory, your battery drains more. When you attend your second cousin wedding and play nice with relative who last saw you when you were only this tall, your battery becomes depleted. It's not that introverts have an unhealthy need to be alone. Solitude is our sanity. In their own words, I asked introverts to tell me about the misconceptions they face that are related to their introversion. Here is what they said. A misconception about us that I have run into is even after you explain what introversion is, a lot of time an extrovert still tries to give you an advice on how to be more extroverted. What's frustrating is that this implies that introversion is an inferior personality type. It's like they think introverts just need to hear how to be extroverts, as if having been told that our entire life This is frustrating, but I think introverts have a responsibility to show the world that the way we approach the world is valid and does not need to be fixed, shall be. I think the biggest misconception is that all introverts have social anxiety and don't enjoy socializing. My extroverted coworker know that I am an introvert. There have been times when I see assume that I wouldn't be interested in things that involve socializing or presenting because I am an introvert. If I mention I went to a party or something over the weekend, she will respond, "Are you sure you are an introvert?" I have explained that being an introvert does not mean that I dislike people or socializing or that I am shy, just that I need more alone time to recharge my batteries. Megan.